All right, welcome back. We are going to be looking at historic globalization today. And one of the main things we try to teach in social studies is the idea that there is a multiplicity of opinions out there. So one way to see that there's a multitude of viewpoints is to take an idea, or in this case, a character from history, and see how the character is remembered differently depending upon one's perspective. So we have Columbus, who is seen as both a hero and as a villain. And what we'd like to do today is to review the arguments and the evidence that you would use to defend those two positions. So one position would be Columbus is a hero, another position is Columbus is a villain. I'd like you to give me evidence that you'd use to explore those two positions. And again, we're doing this for a couple of purposes. The main purpose is we really need you in social studies to understand that there's a multitude of opinions. It's not our job to tell you which opinion is correct, but it's our job to explore the idea that the world is one where things are not always simple, and there's not always consensus around ideas or people. And Columbus is also, another reason why we're studying it, he really does open up a new era of globalization with the exploration and eventual finding of the New World. So that's where chapter 5 of the textbook really gets started, is with Columbus. And before the lunch break today, we're going to explore how he's both a hero and a villain. So on the hero side, so when we went to Barcelona in 2014 and 2010, there's a big statue of Columbus, and you go to places like New York City, and there's Columbus Square, Columbus Circle, and there's Columbus Avenue in New York City. But at the same time, Columbus is very controversial today. And there's people that believe that Columbus holiday, Columbus Day, should be maybe renamed or not celebrated at all. So let's explore the idea that he is a hero. So what were the most convincing points that you read and you're like, yeah, you know what, this makes him a hero? What made Columbus a hero? Yes?
Without him, the majority of North America wouldn't be living because he had to colonize.
Yeah, so Columbus is a hero to the extent of, as a result of his exploration, he opened up a new world where eventually millions of people migrated to the Americas. So looking at my own family, we fled persecution and oppression and class and religious warfare in Ireland, and a genocide against us by the British Crown. And we came to Canada, and we have, I'm not going to use the word thrived, but we've survived here because it was a new opportunity. So for people needing a new opportunity, Columbus can be traced as a hero because he found them a place to go. Any other arguments of why Columbus might be seen as a hero? So he opens up a new era, creates an opportunity for people to resettle. So Michael Jordan is a hero because of his accomplishments in basketball. Mike Tyson remains a hero today, even though he's been to jail, because of his accomplishments in the ring. Robert Downey Jr. has been to jail. He's a hero because of his accomplishments in Hollywood with movie making and acting. So to some, Columbus is a hero because of his accomplishments. Not a hero because of his character, but because of his accomplishments. So if you want to look at his character, he might not have an heroic character, but he achieved heroic things. So we've had lots of people in history achieve heroic things. O.J. Simpson was an incredible running back, but he was also entangled with murder. So his accomplishments as a football player still make him, as a football player, some numbers to try to emulate. Doesn't mean his character is heroic. It means his accomplishments were heroic. Some people look at Columbus in the same way. His discovery of what eventually became known as the New World can be seen as heroic to other explorers. It inspired them. If you inspire other people, by definition, you're a hero. It inspired them to also explore. Any other reasons why Columbus may be seen as a hero? Yes, sir.
He tied the new and old world together, the Western and Eastern.
Yes, so Columbus really, there's something called the Columbian Exchange, named after Columbus. He really does bring the old and the new worlds together. So, unifying mankind, which is globalization, the interconnectedness, this hyper-connectedness of man, it can be traced to Christopher Columbus. So if you are a globalist, if you believe in the unity of humanity, it was a step made possible through the actions of Columbus. Anything else that, while you skim through it, you wanted to bring up? Yes?
Brought new technology and what we're talking about.
So Columbus may be seen as a hero depending upon what you see as the main reasons for globalism and globalization. If you see one of the driving factors between globalization as the need to evangelize, to spread the light of Christ, then through Columbus, Christianity was introduced to the New World. And also due to the Columbian Exchange that was really initiated through Columbus, there was an exchange of technology both from the old world to the new and the new world to the old. So the introduction of things that would change lives. So what are those things? We'll be studying the Columbian Exchange in future lessons, but even things as simple as tomatoes going to the old world and horses and things like that being introduced to the new world. Anything else that makes Columbus a hero? Well, let's explore the villain part. If you were going to have the argument, Columbus should be seen as a villain, what's the most convincing evidence that you have? Yes?
He enslaved almost every native that was there, and then gave them all fleece blankets to give them disease so they would die. That is the direct definition of assimilation.
Yeah, so when we look at Columbus and we want to say, you know what, this guy's a villain, we can look at his actions when he gets to the New World, and we can look at the purposeful genocide that is committed. We can look at the enslavement of many of the Caribbean people that led to the near eradication of some tribes. So we can look at some of the crimes committed by him and his men. Yes?
He's a rapist.
Yeah, so today, if we're going to say, if you do these things, it makes you a villain, hopefully you can understand with me that rape is one of those things that if you commit rape, you're a criminal, you're a villain. We have Criminal Code of Canada that governs activities. And rape is a crime in Canada. Columbus and his men were guilty of multiple rape. So rape and murder, these are crimes. Yes? He enforced women to marry him? So forced marriage? Yeah.
Every native over 14 was given a quota of gold to find per day, and if they didn't reach their quota, they got their hands cut off.
So let's pretend that here in the classroom I said, okay, every day you guys have to write 1,000 words of notes. And if you don't do it, I'm going to cut off your hand. Does that make me a better teacher? Maybe, right? You'd be more motivated to work. You'd be like, oh, I'm taking some notes today. But also at the same time, you might see me as a villain. What a villainous thing to do. What an evil thing to do. To cut off people's hands, to motivate them to work. So I would say that that's very, very tangible, very specific, very sound evidence. So when we continue to work on our A2, our essay writing, what we need to do with our essays is be able to have an argument and then find supporting evidence. So our argument here is simple. Columbus should be seen as a villain. Then we have to say, okay, what's our best evidence? The evidence that you guys have provided me has been best evidence, right? This is convincing evidence. The one with the hands being cut off, now we're going into detail, right? And then we can connect it to, how that might lead to both physical and psychological damage to both those directly and those indirectly affected by it. All right, any other arguments that Columbus is a villain? Yes?
You read about him on the boat.
Yeah, so he's a liar, a rapist, a thief. His men committed murder, they committed genocide, yeah.
He brought disease.
He brought disease, so he introduces disease.
He claimed to have been the first person to discover America when the Vikings were.
Yeah, so the Vikings had been here. Some Irish people think that we came here in leather boats, even before the Vikings. Irish didn't stay because, you know, it was cold, but yeah, so he may have purposely exaggerated his accomplishments. Yes?
Kidnapped 500 natives.
So kidnapping one person is horrible. Kidnapping 500 people, you know, this is culture changing, right? He kidnaps, pillages, plunders. He's living the thug life. He's existing as a thug. That's criminal life. Yes?
He was very racist.
So, and looking back from the vantage point of 2020, he certainly looks racist, right? That he allowed race to define his relations with others. So the last thing, as an aside, that I want you to be thinking about, because we live today in a cancel culture, where from the perspective of 2020, we've been canceling a lot of characters in history and saying, you know what, maybe George Washington wasn't a great person, or John A. Macdonald, Sir John A. wasn't a great person because their connections with slavery or exploitation. Well, looking back from 2020, what should be Columbus's legacy? How should we view him? Should he be seen as a hero? Should we have statues of him? Should we have places in our communities named after him? Just recently in Edmonton, they're renaming schools and neighborhoods because there's people like Oliver that when we look back to the legacy of Oliver, we say, wow, man, this guy had connections to a lot of very racist organizations. Maybe we shouldn't have a neighborhood of Edmonton named after him. Maybe we shouldn't have a neighborhood named after a guy named Otwell that also was very racist. So living in 2020, a time of cancel culture, what should we do with Columbus? That's something for you to think about over the lunch break. When we get back from lunch, we'll look at First Contact, and we'll look at why they're trying to globalize at this time period.